So
I
here's
thought
my
you didn't
thing.
want to do the,
I
I thought we
I
weren't opening
we
anymore. I
are.
thought we were just,
So here's my thing. I was doing some research
hmm
because this, you know what? And I pulled up all the information for next week's son of a gun. Um,
Well, I can talk about this week's if you'd like. So you didn't do your homework for once. I did my
well,
homework
I
and you
I did,
didn't
but
do
I
your
just
homework.
focused
No,
on
that's
other.
amazing.
Oh, okay.
Which would be really funny if we mix the stories.
I know this would be great.
I just want to say that in listening to it again,
Hmm.
I can't believe I didn't say earlier that I find it adorable that you really believe that she was only just going up to look at the view with the guy.
I'm trying to what's the phrase? Read positive intent or assume positive intent. And I just didn't
Come
want to
on.
overread incredibly positive intent.
Well, right. I was going to say, who says that was necessary? I mean, she wasn't married yet. I'm
This
no,
is
like, I'm
true.
not trying to say that you should run around on your fiance, but
And
she was a young
yes,
starlet. The
ingenue
war was about to
on the
start.
rise, sure.
Everybody was all hot and bothered because one of the few good things that comes out of impending doom is everybody
Saunas.
gets
Oh,
hot and
yes,
bothered.
yes, this is true.
And so I feel, and it could have been very, almost like a bachelorette kind of thing.
Hmm.
One last, make sure
Right.
she's picked the right chicken.
Hmm. Well, it's nobody in all of the stuff I have read and the research I did, there is nobody that wants to say what we are intimating.
Of
And
course. I
everybody
get
wants
it
to just
because she died and all of that. But I also think, because I thought her story was super tragic at first and awful, but now I kind of feel, yeah, her life was cut too short. We never got to
Mhm.
see more films or any of that.
Right.
But her life was only good.
Hmm. And I
So that's
think
kind of lovely.
and I think the one of the things I love about the British, I guess it's coroner files and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
that there is a delineation for cause of death that they use sometimes. And I know they used it with Brian Jones when he drowned in A. Mohn's pool. And there are other folks they've used it as well, obviously. But the term death by misadventure,
That's just the best.
which is just, and I think this is a case of that.
Yes. And I do want that on my tombstone, no matter how I go.
Right. Um,
But I'm sure it will be a misadventure.
this is true, yes. But you know what I mean? Like this is something that just everything lined up the wrong way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously if she wasn't Finnish, there it would have been a bigger deal. I think her
Right.
early films, she would have had more of the peg
Of
and whistle, or if we go a little bit more modern, Dorothy Stratton, kind of like, oh, what could have been
Yes.
of all of
Of
this?
course. Or even the James Dean scenario for someone who's very well known.
Sure. Did I tell you my James Dean fun fact that I just found out?
I'm not sure.
I think
Tell
I
me
did.
again. I feel like you did, but then that might not have been as fun as I thought it would be. But tell me
This is
anyway.
probably that in the car following him was Steve McQueen's stunt double,
Oh, yes, you did tell me
who
this.
did all the driving, or he did all of the non in Bullet. Steve McQueen did a lot of the driving for him.
Right.
His stunt double did a few shots and a few things, but then did all of the driving, I believe, for the other characters in the film.
It's
And
cool.
he happened to be there of all things. It's one of those
That
things where you find out
sucks.
and you're just kind of like, that's really interesting. The same way I think people don't bring up the fact the Mariska Hargitay connection to
I
everything.
love that connection. I mean,
It's
it's a
just,
terrible story, but it's
it's
a
a terrible
really
story.
interesting,
It's a terrible story because she happened to be in the car
yes,
with
and
her
was
mother.
little, but it's
But
also a cool legacy.
and her dad as well as a actor,
Yeah,
boxer, like all this other stuff. It,
cool.
it just people always focus on the dad, and I think Jane Mansfield gets the sort
I
of
know, which I think is
raw
kind
deal
of
on that one.
interesting because I do feel, well, it shows, although I am into boxing, but I do feel in my world, Jane's the bigger story. But
No pun
I would, of
intended.
course, right, be drawn to
Um,
her.
right. Well, I usually it's the tragedy and all of that that people love to really focus on. And so you would
Right.
think you look at anyone in John Lennon's orbit, people want to focus on that.
We haven't talked about that yet. The new Apple.
Oh, we haven't. We
It
need to do that.
opens with our friend,
Oh, it
who I didn't
does?
get to talk to. I've
Uh,
only gotten, I think I got through the first episode. It's not that it's not good. It's very well done. It is heavy.
really?
To me, it felt very heavy, but it also could be the time of year. It could be a lot of things,
Yeah.
but it felt very heavy. There's a lot of people carrying a lot of stuff from what happened.
Spiritual weight from that.
Yeah, just a lot of weight, whether spiritual or otherwise, just
Mm,
weight. I don't know how they necessarily what they're, you know, wasn't all it just a
right.
lot of stuff.
And don't they confirm to bring this all back to this that his
Death.
final words were, I'm shot?
I believe so, yes. The
Because for,
way because in the first episode they definitely say that and there's nothing else.
mhm,
Like but they don't that yes, unless there is some other thing that comes out later, but it was pretty definitive from what I gathered.
because again, in doing research, there's some quarters suggest that his final words were, yes, I am, when somebody in the ambulance said, are you John Lennon?
I don't think so because they said that has he's shot and he says that and then he falls in the lobby and he's out. Like he's not dead, but he is like passed out. Like
Right.
Yoko's trying to wake him up. All these different things. Everyone's trying, and it's like unless he had one of those like clarity moments. But I feel like if he
Yeah.
had a clarity moment for some reason, I feel like John Lennon would say something completely out of left field,
You would hope.
right? I feel
I,
like Fun John would come back for like 1 second
yeah, there
and then
was a
he'd be out.
great, I don't know if you ever heard it, a radio documentary. It was like a half hour long about that night. And it simply is just a collection of various interviews from John from that era. And then I think it was the person at St. Vincent's Hospital. Is that where it was taken? I think.
I think so.
Whichever hospital he was, them coming out and making
Yeah.
an official announcement. The Howard Cosell, obviously, that story. Um,
Mhm.
what was the other one? There's another one. I think it was Geraldo Rivera announcing it on Nightline or something.
Yeah, they show clips of all that stuff.
And there's one that always sort of like chilled me was it was an interview they did with John where he was talking about him and Yoko's approach to everything as, what everyone makes fun of Ringo for now, the peace and
Right.
love.
Yes.
And the interview says to him, well, what if someone came at you with a gun? And he
Hmm.
pauses for a second and goes, well, I'd run away, but I'd still be shouting, peace and love, brother, as I ran.
Yes.
Um, which is so very John Lennon, but also very
Hmm.
like chilling.
It is. It's like awful.
And then when you see, I mean, it's interesting to see how all three Beatles reacted to it and what they did with that news creatively, artistically. And it's
Hmm.
weird,
There's
because
some
Harry,
really beautiful like Ringo quotes
mm-hmm,
when it happened. Like just like because I think he's like the first one
was
that
he?
gets there, I think. Gotta watch it again. Like I said, it was like really heavy. So I was fascinated, but I kept kind of trying to not remember it.
Yeah,
Repression. I do it
right.
well.
You need a chaser. I get it. It's
I
the
do.
holidays. You need a
Yeah,
something.
I'm already a mess. So, but yeah,
Because it's interesting. The thing that I always thought was interesting when you look at what Harry Nilsson did in the aftermath of that was I think he formed a big anti-gun lobby and like was putting stuff in all his records and testifying and all of this stuff, urging, being like, one of my best friends was killed by a gun. Like, we need to change this. And that all three Beatles kind of went the other way or just sort of like were saddened about, but didn't do anything bigger. Which
Right.
I get it. Everyone deals with their grief in their own way,
Right.
and their relationship was incredibly complicated by that point.
And I feel like if I were their PR person or manager, I would tell them not to publicly do it because of the complication, because I think
Mm,
you would have no way to avoid them losing all of the message because people would only want to talk about the complication.
mm,
You know what I mean? They'd be like,
yeah,
well, how does that leave you? Where does that leave you? Whereas if they go just general peace and love still, and then each of
right,
their little things from animal rights to
right.
landmines to whatever. But the other thing that I is always so weird to me that I forget about, but then I go back to, it's so bizarre to me that yes, we have the what happened to John, but then what happened to George and his wife?
Hmm.
Like in essence, we could have had two Beatles murdered basically for
Yeah.
no good reason.
Hmm. And almost, what was it, 20 years? Almost
Yeah.
like with to the month, if not the day,
Yeah.
certainly. But like, yeah, that
Yeah.
does kind of get brushed over
It's eerie.
because, and I think too, all of George's complications later on in his life were
Yes.
due in no small part to the fact that he had been stabbed multiple times.
Of course.
So
Sad.
it's very, yeah. But to go to tragic actresses,
Right. But, just to really quickly, because
yes,
we
put
took
a bow
this
on that,
diversion,
put
which
a
I
hat
was
on it.
not planning on doing, um, if you haven't listened to yet, but our other show, Rock and Roll Grad School,
This is
you
true.
should pop over there because it is another tragic story with a tragic demise, but a great story this week about Mal Evans, roadie, sidekick, friend, backup,
Hmm.
all sorts of things to the Beatles, and a new book about him, which is fantastic.
And to that point, another new book that we spoke to her
Mm-hmm.
last year, and we just reissued the interview, Laurie Evans, who was a reporter who was one of, I think it was two or three producers, people that were in the room and conducted the last interview with him that day.
Mm-hmm.
And the tragedy that, and the fact, the way she carried this, knowing that she was got to meet this idol and hero of hers on the worst day of his life. And it sounds like the way she tells it, pretty much her life too.
Yeah.
The one thing that's sort of the upside to it that I love is that she talks about bringing a copy of Grapefruit, the Yoko Ono book,
Mm-hmm.
for Yoko to sign, and so says asks Yoko to sign it, and she does, and John goes, I wrote the intro to that. Do you want me to sign that too? She's like, well, yes, of course, but just the way
Please.
he was like, she didn't want to bug him, didn't want to be the
Right. I
person
was
coming
just
with the
trying to
autograph book,
be,
and he was like,
yes,
I did that too.
I did something too. Yeah. She does
So
open, she is the first source they talk to in the documentary.
I will have to watch that.
I just trashed my house. Maybe that was John
Do we need
coming
to
from
stop?
beyond. No, I just
Okay.
spilled tea everywhere, but it's fine.
Fine, or I don't know.
Okay, we don't just give me like 30 seconds. We don't need to
Yes,
stop.
please.
Okay.
No, 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 this will be amazing. Do, 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 do,
You reminded me that
do,
I'm
do, 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 do,
obsessively
do.
anal and I'll be distracted if there's wet
Well, if it
things
was
on my
me,
work
I'd be
table.
sitting there being like, it's soaking in. It's soaking in. Don't think
Well,
about it
right,
soaking in.
right.
Don't worry about
Because
the
I'm
patina. I don't.
right. I got it. It's all good.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Um,
back
but
to it.
back to other tragic deaths and
Yes.
Finn's at that.
Yes.
It's I don't know. It's very interesting. One of the things that and there's a little bit uh, that we mention in the episode, but this idea of Finnish baseball,
Yes.
which if you want your head to spin, like I thought American baseball was difficult. I thought the infield fly rule was difficult to explain. It
Hmm.
was one of those things that you just intrinsically understand, but could never put into words.
Right.
Finnish baseball, what I give is like the incredibly short version and the simplified version. where
This,
there's
yeah, it's weird.
it's very weird. And of course, it has another name, and it's not just Finnish baseball,
It's
but
not round. Well, no, it's not. It's not rounders, is it?
no.
Right. Because I played rounders when I lived in England, and there were some
La-di-da.
similarities. Shut up. And netball and lacrosse, which
Oh my
although it's an
God.
American sport, nobody played in America in the 80s.
Is it American or is it Canadian?
Oh, it was, isn't it, wasn't it started by the Native Americans? Well, it could have been Canadian. Yes. I thought you were going to say French. It could have been Canadian,
Yeah,
but
I'm not
I feel like
sure. It
the
could be.
Americans always take credit for everything. So
This is true.
yes.
Um,
But all this to say, rounders had some weird little things like that. And the bat was much smaller
mhm.
and the ball is like very, very hard. Like,
Huh,
yeah.
interesting. So I don't
So I
know
was
if this
sporty
is,
once.
yeah, I don't know if this is the time to talk about the weird things in Finland or about dead blonde actresses, because
Well,
you could really go both ways.
yeah,
I mean, we could talk about
that's
Finnish sauna for
oh,
45
for
minutes.
days,
Yeah.
days, and we have
Yeah, if we have, you're
on our
right.
other show.
Yes. Now available wherever you get your podcast.
Yes, look at all these plugs we didn't even plan.
Um,
And we have one, a Finnish style sauna. I'm sure started by some Finn descendants in northern Michigan now, which I am going to with or without you at some point because it looks
okay.
amazing.
All right. Of
Um, and I want to wear the hat, but we
course.
can talk about weird things in Finland, or we could move to dead actresses. I don't know.
It's hard. I would also like to just give a shout out to one of our listeners, Donna Wheeler, who
Oh yeah.
described last week's show as, quote, very boring.
But
Thank
you
you
know
for
what?
listening, Donna. Thank you for your opinion. And we not only tolerate you, we respect you.
I am ecstatic that we have Donna
That we
because the
have,
second I read one, we legitimately do want to know when we're boring because it
sure.
can happen. We go down rabbit holes that some people love, some people hate. Sometimes nobody even likes them,
If you're more of a Monkees person than a Beatles person, this already has been incredibly boring.
but we do love both
We do.
for different reasons.
Hmm.
But um, it was a very exciting day for me in all of my dreams of being famous. I have
Hmm.
been waiting and wondering for when we'd get some like negative hatred, not hatred, that's a bit strong, but some,
Critique. Yeah.
so I felt that that was very exciting, that we were
Mm.
worthy of disappointing someone
Yes.
made me really happy. Not that I like to disappoint people, but it
No,
really did make me happy.
I get it. The one that made me very happy, and I've probably told you this before, but was in a review of the Plimpton film. Or no, I'm sorry, it was not even a review of the film. It was something about the RFK assassination and the anniversary of that. Um, that one of these people who are very into both the JFK and RFK conspiracies
Yes.
somehow looped us into continuing the CIA's cover up of this, and we were plants of the CIA, and we made this whole movie. I was so excited. The
I'm so
one,
excited because now I'm a conspirator by
right,
proxy.
exactly. But the worst
Oh,
part was they named Tom and not me, and I was furious.
well, we need to do
They said like the
something to make that
filmmakers,
happen.
but then they name checked him in specific, and it hurt my feelings.
You know what? It's okay because they're going to then come haul him off and question him while we can continue to wreak havoc.
This is true. This is very, very true.
Again, don't want Tom hauled off, but if you have to feel better about your name not being mentioned,
And if you got to haul off
you get a little
somebody,
more time.
I'm just saying.
I can think of some other people that we should probably get hauled off first. Maybe we should talk about Sauvé or
Yeah, I was gonna say, is
Sandy
this
or,
yeah, where was John Sauvé?
I mean,
June 8th?
I don't know.
6th? Yeah,
We might want to investigate that.
we should. We really should. Um, but dead actresses.
Dead
There's
blonde
dead
actresses.
blonde actresses. Because I
This
I
is,
just I Googled
do you
tragic
need me
actresses.
to give you a list?
Well, this is the thing. So many of them are blonde.
But they're all sometimes blonde. Like Brittany Murphy came to mind immediately.
Sure. Uh,
Probably one of the most, I think her story is very tragic.
mm, interesting. Why is that?
Um, I just think it is because I do think there was a lot more to her than she
Mm,
got the chance to show. I mean, Ty and Clueless is amazing, but it's like, I mean,
right,
she was incredible, but that's not the kind of movie you get the credit for. She was great in 8 Mile.
right.
I think she had a lot more she could have done. And I think she
Sure.
was surrounded by some pretty shady characters. And I think
Fair.
she's one of those people that instead of getting help, they made her life worse.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, and
um,
it's interesting. One of the few non-blondes in Google's just self-generated tragic actresses is Judy
yeah.
Garland, who very much similarly exact
Oh
same
God,
thing.
hers is like beyond
Um,
tragic.
and I mean
Like I
they,
couldn't even laugh. I didn't like SNL this week. I mean, I'm kind of off the rails with it in general, but I did like Weekend Update because that always makes me laugh when they switch places. And
yeah.
but that whole Judy Garland sketch made me really uncomfortable. This Meet Me in St.
Oh,
Louis
yeah,
sketch
yeah, yeah.
because I just kept thinking of actual. I don't know. I guess I've just done too much Judy Garland stuff,
Right.
you know.
Evocation. I get that.
But yes, her story is horrifically sad.
But then there's someone like Grace Kelly who always gets looped into this. And
I mean,
I understand the ending is not great,
it's terrible.
but
She had a really lovely run prior.
I was going to say, like, she was very fortunate in that her life was not full of hardship. She was not put through the ringer a la Judy Garland. And I'm not saying
Correct.
it was all sunshine and roses, but
No, it
in the
was
grand
it
scheme
was
of
not.
things, did all right.
She did.
I mean, and then they also include here people like Natasha Richardson, which again,
Oh,
completely understand.
that one like broke my heart. And it's dumb, but I saw her. It's funny. I saw her in a play version of High Society doing the lead.
Hmm.
Here's my little England reference again. It was a
Yes.
royal performance, and the Queen Mum was there.
Ooh,
And so I remembered it. So I
we know
felt
someone
like
who's been naked in front of her.
I know. And she was just starting out, even though she comes from very famous lineage, right?
She's
So
done
I
okay.
felt
Yeah.
right, like I always sort of like felt like not like I knew her, I didn't, but you know. So then when that happened, and it was such a freaky thing,
Yeah.
and then Liam Neeson was like so in love, and then he makes Love Actually, which is like tragic, and you think of that, it's just terrible. Her story breaks my heart because it's
Well,
so fluky.
and Love Actually was prior, which is the other thing that seems so
I
very
know, but was
strange.
it
And
out? I don't think it was out yet, though, was it?
I believe it was.
Oh, maybe it was. Okay. But
But
still, it's weird regardless.
yes. Well, and I worked on a film that she was in. Um,
So see, you did know her.
I mean, similarly to my interaction with her mother, if there was anything, it was very brief, and you just hung
Yes.
up the phone or walked away being like, I love that person. They're
Right.
so nice.
Yeah.
Um, her assistant was great. He spent a ton of time getting these weird Russian cigarettes that was her brand.
That's awesome.
That like the amount of like work you had to do to get these things. You're like, well, it's nice. It's good.
Yeah, it works.
Um, but a lot of the tragedy comes from the life cut way too short versus
Yeah.
terrible things haven't happened to you. I mean, you look at it, and I can't remember who did the film, the Anna Nicole Smith film, which is like you want to talk about incredibly depressing stories from
It's,
A to Z.
oh my God. I love her too. She's another one, but that I think is misunderstood and could have done more
Mm,
and had a horrifically tragic life.
yes.
I mean, she
Um,
could have done more in different ways, but I do like her.
yeah, I know folks who worked with her and they were sort of like basically their takeaway was what you saw was what you got.
Yeah.
Um,
That's not a bad thing.
no, it's there's I guess something of the knowing who you are and being the truest version of you. Is that what we're
Exactly.
saying?
That's what we're saying.
So I guess happy Christmas.
I know. What the hell? We got to get better at like,
Well, when you're listening to a show, Donna, called Famous Last Words,
I
you
know.
know where we're heading with this. And
It's true.
uh, we do not claim to be experts. We claim to be professionals, but not experts.
True.
We, at the end of the day, we're all doing our best.
And if you, even though you found us boring here, you may not find us boring on the other two shows we shamelessly plugged.
Or you may not find us boring at dinner,
No, we're not boring at dinner.
which I followed. I looked back to see kind of what Donna's deal was, if it was some sort of
Oh,
bot
you
trolling
stalked
us.
Donna?
I just
Okay.
looked up to be like, is this a real person or is this somebody who just shows up to
Oh, she was
lob
definitely a real
grenades?
person.
No, and she
A
did
bot would have written us a tome about.
this is true, but I will say she did share a lot of, it doesn't look like she makes her own videos, she shares things,
Okay.
songs, into either knitting or some sort of needlework, something, sewing related, and a lot of homemade dishes. So
Oh,
I don't want to invite ourselves over for dinner,
yes.
but Donna, if you want to give us another chance, we are willing to not even let
We,
bygones be bygones. Just say, you know what? That is your opinion. And like Perry Farrell says, everyone has their own opinion.
yes, this is true.
So, Donna, happy Christmas, happy holidays, and
Happy New Year.
happy New Year to you and yours. And next Wednesday, we are wrapping up season one.
Hmm.
And spoiler, it's going to be more upbeat than this.
It is. We are ending on a high note.
Yes. There's a few other things about it that are sort of depressing
There's
and
some depressing
philosophical
things,
elements of
yes,
it all.
and
But
along the way, but it is a story of triumph
yes,
and success. It's one of my
aspirations.
favorite historical characters, so I get to be happy about that.
Yeah, so that'll be fun for a change.
Hmm.
And
Amazing legacies.
yeah, it's wonderful. So
Hmm.
you have that to look forward to.
Yes.
So Donna, please give us another chance. But if you've moved on to greener pastures, if you've moved on to greener pastures, vaya
Well,
con
I'm sure
Dios, Don.
we can
Donna.
definitely find people even more boring than we are.
Yeah, please. I related to some of them.
Yeah, me
But
too.
thank you for listening, Donna. I'm sorry we are not your cup of tea or the cup that Heidi spilled all over the coffee table.
That was the pot, not the cup.
Mm, there's
Cup
something
stayed
funny,
intact.
something amusing about you spilling your tea all over the coffee table.
I know. At least I didn't spill it on my Chanel book this time, like I did earlier this week.
Oh, that would drive me nuts. I hate
I
that.
was really upset, but I
I
did get it out
Oh good.
and didn't ruin the book after I carted it across the ocean. Weighs more than I do.
Yeah, yeah, a good book ruined by beverages is no
It's
fun.
a tragic.
Yeah, that's why I usually read in a full hazmat suit. Or
I
if I
can
can't,
imagine.
yeah, one of those Tyvek kind of like paper
Hmm,
things.
that's
It's
a good
rustly
idea.
if you're in bed, but worth it.
Yeah, it's
So
probably warm.
it is, yeah.
Your heating
So
bill could go way down.